Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. And for my very first video, I wanted to do a video that was quite on the media a lot a couple of years ago, and it did receive a lot of media attention, but it just fell off the map. And I believe that the victims deserve to get their stories told, and they do deserve some justice. Our case begins in July 2018 when a man named Spusiso Khoza contacted Mbali Khoza on Facebook, and Spusiso claimed that he was a long lost relative. He claimed that he was Mbali's late brother's son. Now, Spusiso knew a lot about Mbali's late brother, so she really didn't have any reason not to doubt him. And it's important to note that Spusiso was very charming and he was very convincing, and he had a way with people. And they became really close friends over Facebook, and this led to Mbali inviting Spusiso to Pietermaritzburg so that Spusiso can meet the rest of his family and more importantly, meet his grandmother. Spusiso took up Mbali on this offer, and he went to Pietermaritzburg. And in Pietermaritzburg, it said that Spusiso was very charming, he was lovable, and the whole family fell in love with him immediately. And the family was very impressed by him because he was hardworking, he was helping everyone around the house, he was cooking, cleaning, doing everything. And the family was even more impressed by him because he told them that he actually had a medical degree from the University of Cape Town, and he had another medical degree from the University of New York. And he also told the family that he had actually gotten a job at Charlotte Matlanga Hospital and he was moving to Joburg. Mbali lived in Joburg in Vlakfontein, and she lived in Joburg with her boyfriend Fita Kupe and her sisters and their children. Mbali invited Spusiso to come live with them in Vlakfontein, and Spusiso gladly took up the offer. When Spusiso moved to Vlakfontein, the community really welcomed him because he was lovable and he was charming and he fit really in. Everything seemed to be going well, and fast forward to October 2018 when family members of the Khoza family was very worried because they hadn't heard anything from anyone from that house in about a week. And if you don't hear anything from anyone from about 9 people living in the same place, you become very worried and suspicious. And their suspicions grew even more when one of the relatives received a message from one of the sisters, and the message said that she was on her way to Cape Town to attend a family crisis, and that relative didn't know of any crisis in Cape Town, so she became very worried. And their suspicion grew even more when one of the sister's friends sent her a message, and the way she replied isn't how she would have normally replied to a message. So this relative became very concerned, and she went to that house in Vlakfontein to investigate what was going on. And nothing could have prepared her for what she found in that house. So she says that when she got to the house, she was immediately hit by a strong smell of rotting meat. And when she went into the house to open a window from the outside, she saw flies everywhere. So this led her to go to a neighbor's house to find out if they'd seen anyone from the house in the last couple of days. And the neighbor told her that they had been told that everyone in that house had went to Pietermaritzburg to visit their mother. Now, she didn't know anything of the visit to Pietermaritzburg. The neighbor also told her that there's been this strong foul smell coming from that house for the last couple of days, and this led to them deciding to call the police. When the police arrived, they found sand all over the house because the house had been going under construction and the construction workers had left sand all over the house. In one of the bedrooms, they found a really large pile of sand, and that's where the smell was coming from. And sadly, they found 4 bodies in that room. They found a body of 1 woman and 3 children. And when they went outside to a back room, they found a further 3 bodies of 2 women and 1 child. The reports I've heard and seen, it said that the scene was very horrific and the smell was quite terrible. Women had been beaten and raped to death, and they'd been beaten to death with a sledgehammer. So the crime scene was very horrific. Something terrible had happened in that house. And to explain how horrific the site was. One of the fathers of the children who had passed away, he was actually hospitalized after he had to identify the bodies, and that should show you how horrific the site was. The story did receive a lot of media attention, and I think this helped force the police to investigate the matter as quickly as they did. When police started investigating the case, Spusiso Khoza wasn't an immediate suspect. They just believed that he had some important information that really could break the case wide open. But when they started questioning people that lived in the back rooms of the house, they told them that 2 days before, Uspusiso was seen in the house and he was asking people what he can do to get rid of the smell. And they told him to buy Jace fluid and some air freshener. And Uspusiso was seen carrying air freshener and some Jace fluid. And he had actually hired boys around the neighborhood to come with sand so he can put more sand in the house. It was very suspicious, but then nobody really questioned him. Police now started searching for Uspusiso and he became a suspect, and they found documents in the house that proved that his name really wasn't Uspusiso Khoza, but his name was actually Vusi Mabaso. Police then released Spusiso's picture to the media, and they were asking if anyone had information on Uspusiso Khoza, whose real name was Vusi Ernest Mabaso, to contact them. And 3 days later, they caught him in the border. He was trying to jump over to Zimbabwe, and the police brought him in for custody. And when he got into custody, he did give a confession, but the confession that he gave, nobody saw it coming. Before I get to his confession, I want to tell you guys a little bit about Uspusiso Khoza. The earliest information we know of him is around 2010 when he arrived in Khayelitsha in Cape Town, and he claimed that he was looking for his father, and he had actually found a family in Cape Town, and the family in Cape Town actually welcomed him and everything seemed to be going well. However, Uspusiso said that someone in the family was molesting him and he ran away, and the police actually found him and took him to an orphanage in Khayelitsha. And then in the orphanage, he told them he was actually born in 1994, and everyone in the orphanage, as usual, fell in love with him because he was charming, he was lovable, and he was actually 16 years old. And in the orphanage, it seemed like he was thriving. He started attending high school and he was part of a cycling club, and which he was very good at. He was in grade 11. He dropped out of high school because he claimed that he had received a scholarship to study in New York, which was very suspicious as to why he would drop out of school to go to New York to attend a university, but nobody really questioned him. And at around the time in grade 11, he was reaching an age where he had to leave the orphanage, and luckily one of the social workers at the orphanage had fell in love with Uspusiso and invited him to come live with her and the family. Suddenly, Uspusiso stole the social worker's husband's car and gun and Bible, and that was the last time he was seen or heard from in Cape Town, and that was around in 2015. When Uspusiso Khoza was brought in for questioning, he told the police that he had actually committed the murders, but the murders weren't actually his idea. He says that the murders were orchestrated by Fita Kupe, Mbali's boyfriend. Uspusiso claims that he was in Cape Town and he was living in Cape Town when a gang of men, and this gang of men included Ufita Kupe, kidnapped him and drugged him, and they forced him to commit a string of crimes around in 2015 in Cape Town. And one day he got the courage to finally escape, and he escaped. But however, when he was escaping, he was in a stolen car and the police stopped him, and he was arrested for 3 years, and that's why there's a missing period of him between 2015 and 2018. And he claims that in 2018, when he was released from jail, Ofita Kupe found him and he forced him to befriend Mbali on Facebook, and that's why he knew so much information about the Khoza family. And it was actually his idea for Mbali to invite Uspusiso to come to live with them in Vlakfontein. Uspusiso claimed that the whole murder was Fita Kupe's idea. He was the one instructing Spusiso on how to murder the women, how to rape them, and how to hide the bodies. The police did believe Spusiso's confession at the time because they said it would be impossible for somebody to handle 7 women and children alone, and they believed that they had enough evidence to place both of them at the crime scene. Prior to the bodies being discovered, he had been seen in the house with Spusiso, and he was also sleeping in the house, and he was seen in the house when the odor was out and the neighbors could smell the odor. So it was pretty impossible for him not to know that there were dead bodies in that house. And how was he able to sleep in the house with such odor if he didn't know that there were dead bodies in the house? This led to Spusiso Khoza, his real name Vusi Mabaso, and Fita Kupe being charged with 7 counts of murder. The story did take another tragic turn in January 2019 when Spusiso committed suicide in police custody, and this eventually led to the charges against Fita Kupe being dropped because the police didn't have enough evidence on him. And I'm not sure, I think it's section 219 of the Criminal Procedure Act, and it says that a confession is not enough evidence to charge somebody with murder, and for that reason charges against Fita Kupe were dropped. The story is very tragic because it ends with Spusiso committing suicide and Fita Kupe being released. Very tragic to the Khoza family because they lost 7 members of their family, and they really welcomed both men into their family only for them to orchestrate such a despicable thing, and they really didn't receive any justice whatsoever. That's the end of the video, and if you did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe to the channel.